I didn't actually know that doTERRA was also going to heal me physically. I just saw the potential of the business, that it was going to give me that freedom I was looking for. I believed in it so much that I was willing to bet everything that I had. I actually took the last $150 that I had in my bank account and I bought my starter kit because the products are that good. So when you have a product that is that good and you have a system, a plan, a pathway to create that residual income, you have to run for it. Your goal doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to make it look like anybody else. Just see what happens. And if you do that, you're going to accidentally end up diamond.
Good morning, friends, and happy Wednesday. My name is Andy Goddard, and I have a crazy belief that you were born to be free, that freedom is your natural state. And doTERRA helps you return to that natural state of freedom. Whether you want to be free from, financially free or free from physical ailments, emotional, whatever kind of bondage is holding you back, doTERRA is a vehicle. And Natalie and I are so grateful for the partnership we've had with doTERRA for the last 18 years. And one of our favorite things is to share freedom stories with other people. So we love to hear how people have gained physical freedom, with physical issues, time freedom, financial freedom, whatever kind of freedom they've achieved. We love to hear their stories. And today we're super excited to hear from Arin Fugate, who's been with doTERRA for a long time. I like to think of you as OG. I hope that doesn't make you feel old, but Arin has been around for a long time. So I don't want to steal any of your thunder. Arin, welcome and thank you so much. Tell us where you're from, first of all.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me on the call. So I'm in
Absolutely.
the beautiful Southern Oregon.
Southern Oregon. Awesome. Fantastic. And go ahead and share your story with us. Just tell us kind of where you were, what life was like before doTERRA, and what kind of doors it opened for you.
Yeah, I think my story is really about what happens when you have absolute belief combined with absolute desperation and knowing that doTERRA is the life raft that's been sent and what can happen when you just grab onto it and believe that it 100% is going to take you where you want to go. I was actually raised with an essential oil mom. So she brought essential oils home. And maybe you can remember this day with Natalie, but she brought essential oils home when I was around 11 years old. And she had this little box filled with all these brown bottles and a twinkle in her eye. And she was like, "This is our medicine." And I kind of went, "What?" And, my joke is that she would have straightened my teeth with essential oils if she could have. And I was like, "Sorry, mom, I have to get braces." It was the one thing. So I grew up feeling like she was the little cuckoo. Those oils were cuckoo. And her kind of desire to feed me tofu sandwiches and homeschool me and all these things, I just wanted none of it. I wanted to eat McDonald's. I wanted to take regular medicine and I wanted to go to school with the rest of the kids and be, quote unquote normal. And there's other parts to my childhood story that wasn't beautiful. There was a lot of pain there. So I really was running from a
Mm,
lot of pain in my childhood. And
mm,
when you have that kind of pain, it's very easy to find yourself among people who are saying, take a drink of this alcohol and take this drug and come with us. We're going to show you how you can be free in a way that doesn't ever give you freedom. And
wow.
so that's the trajectory I went down. And
Mm,
I did end up eating McDonald's and taking normal medicine. And I also ended up in Los Angeles, California, working in the film and music industry. And I
mm,
got really deep into a party
mm,
lifestyle. There was many, many days where I would call my mom crying asking her for money because I couldn't pay rent. There were many days when I was searching for quarters in my couch so I could buy a frozen burrito to eat. And there was a lot of health issues that started to develop with this lifestyle. I was probably in my early 30s, around 32, 33, and I couldn't walk a city block
Mm.
without extreme pain.
Mm.
I was having weird rashes all over my body. I was very inflamed. I was having hormonal issues, intense anxiety, depression. And what was the most upsetting to me is I couldn't maintain a relationship. I so wanted in my heart to be a mom one day and to find my soulmate and to have a happy life. That's what I really wanted. And it just felt like no matter what I did, I picked the wrong guy, or I became friends with the wrong person, or I lost my house, or I would lose my job. I was also completely unable to be employed. I would quit jobs, I would get fired, and I just felt like I cannot be at this part of my life and be in so much pain and be so sad and be so lonely. And it was really at that time when I didn't have a strong belief in God or the universe or anything. I didn't feel like there was anything out there that was looking out for me. I just felt like I was on my own. But I had a yoga practice, funny enough. Even in
Mm.
my most intense party days, even when I was just failing at life, I would still go to a yoga class. And it was kind of in that moment of stillness after the class. If anyone's here has done yoga, they do a pose called Shavasana. And it's this moment where you're exhausted from all the exercise and you're kind of laying there. It's called the death pose. And I remember one specific yoga class, I'm laying in Shavasana, and the thought came across me, what if I stepped off of this mat from this moment of Shavasana and I actually lived my life as though I was just born, like letting go of all the mistakes that I made, all the pain that I'd caused people, all the pain I had in myself. And what if I could step out of that class and my first foot on the ground was actually the first footstep I had taken? And what would I do? And what would I create? And who would I be? And that was kind of the beginning of, I guess, in retrospect, a prayer that I had, which was, let me start again. How can I find a new path forward in life? And it was pretty magical because I would say less than a week after that experience, I met a person at my yoga studio who introduced me to doTERRA. And this was back in 2008. So the company had just launched. And the other thing that was unique about him is he had a mom who was an essential oil mom who had found great success in another essential oil company. And he told me her story, her financial story, and I saw myself in her. And I grabbed onto that and I went, if she can do it, I can do it. And my belief was so strong in the potential of essential oils and what doTERRA's vision was that I actually took the last $150 that I had in my bank account and I bought my starter kit. I mean, it kind of makes me tear up because the faith that that girl had in my future self. I didn't have a credit card. I didn't even have a place to live. I was on food stamps. I was sleeping on my mom's couch in my 30s. And that kind of hand that reached back down to me and gave me that lifeboat, I believed in it so much that I was willing to bet everything that I had. And back then we didn't have a lot of starter kits. It was just a couple of oils. So it was a starter kit and a book. And back then you had to do $100 rewards order. There was no option. Like if you were in, it was $100 a month. And so I kind of went, well, I have no idea how I'm going to get $100 next month, but I'm just going to take it month by month. And I did a lot of really creative things, which we can get into as far as how I would come up with my $100. And the creative things I did actually built my doTERRA business. And so at first, I didn't actually know that doTERRA was also going to heal me physically.
Hmm.
I just saw the potential of the business, that it was going to give me that freedom I was looking for. And this is also important to note. I didn't see six figures in my future. My goal was $1,200 a month. You know, I just grabbed onto the power of three bonus and I went, if I could create that for myself, then that would give me breathing room. I could pay my rent. And then from there, maybe I'll go figure out what I want to do with my life, or maybe I'll go back to school. So I didn't go into this expecting to become a diamond or anything. That was crazy talk. But I just grabbed onto this power of three bonus and started teaching people about essential oils. And within a couple of months of that, it was actually the very first convention. And it was a small group. You're probably there, like 300 people.
Yeah, but the Grand America,
Yep.
or maybe it's Little America.
I
It
think
was
it was the
small.
Little America.
That was super.
Yeah. And my upline paid for my plane ticket and got me a hotel room. Like, thank you so much to Matt Anderson for that. And I walked into this room with all of you. And what I also want to point out is if there's anyone on the call who feels like they don't belong, I definitely felt like I didn't belong there. I was still drinking. I was still using drugs. I had a lot of self-worth issues. I didn't have finances to have nice clothes. And I kind of was in this room with all these incredible people who were so inspired and inspiring. And I had a lot of, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. And I pushed through that. It was hard. It was really hard to stay in that room and believe that I belonged. And Dr. Hill presented some research around vetiver specifically and how vetiver could help with anxiety. And I went, wait a minute, it could help me with anxiety? And then they talked about the supplements. And he did this really cool presentation where he went A to Z through all the oils we had and spent what felt like a half an hour on every oil. And I was just taking notes and I was like soaking it in. And I went home from that believing that the oils were also going to heal me physically. And they did. They truly did. And so that was, I guess, 18, what was that, 18 years ago? Something like that. And the journey has been incredible. And I have found a level of health. Now I'm 49 years old. I have 2 kids. I'm married. And the health picture is so much better now than back when I was in my 30s. And there's financial support and financial freedom there. I'm able to take care of my family. I'm able to spend time involved in the things that I love, which now happen to be teaching people about health and wellness and essential oils. So doTERRA is incredible. It's such a gift. And my hope is just that anyone who's considering joining us and sharing this message with people, that you have that completely blind faith. And you could see yourself in my story and run with it, because that's going to be the difference between your success here or not.
Wow. Oh my goodness. What an incredible journey. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the specific physical healing that you've seen on your journey? You talked about how you weren't expecting that, but it came. So what were some of the specifics that you saw?
Well, one of the most incredible is I was a really heavy drug user, and I was able to detox my body I didn't go through any kind of rehab program.
Wow.
And I think a big part, the big oils that I used for that were the citrus oils in my water, specifically the MetaPower blend. I would take drops of MetaPower under my tongue whenever I had cravings. And I believe that cleansed my cells and helped to rewire my brain.
Which was Slim and Sassy back in the day, right?
Yep. Slim and Sassy back in the day. That's an incredible blend. If you haven't looked into that, don't be fooled about the weight loss marketing behind it. It's really a health tonic.
Yeah.
And it produces incredible results when you need to detox something out of your body.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit more about that journey in particular, like it's probably not that Slim and Sassy um cured your desire, or maybe it did. Like what was it that led you to go on that journey?
Yeah, well, I was so sick of the feeling of waking up after having a bender. So my intention would be to wake up, and today was the day that I was going to stop using and I was going to get my life together.
Hmm.
And then it's almost like I would black out. I would go and I would use the drugs, and I would wake up the next morning or a few days later and just feel like, oh, God, I did it again.
Hmm.
Why can't I extract myself from this life that I don't want and find the life that I do? And I think that when the oils came in, I was able to reach for something when I started feeling the emotional pain that used to send me to the bar or send me to a party. So now I had this whole kit of tools where I felt sad, I'd put some whisper on. I felt
Hmm.
anxious, I would smell vetiver or I would smell bergamot. And they were this tool that I could and would reach for instead of the other thing to soothe the emotions. And it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like one day I was cured. It was more
Mhm.
of an unraveling over probably about a year, a
Wow.
detoxifying. I felt a lot like a snake shedding her skin.
Hmm.
And every month where I would learn more about health and wellness and learn more about essential oils, I would make more and more changes. So then I changed my nutrition. I started learning about mindset and attending personal development seminars. And I
Hmm.
began to understand how my traumas had created this tendency to reach for a substance that would numb me out. So I started to learn how to sit with my emotions and
Hmm.
feel them. And the oils would really help with that too. I remember making a deep connection to when I had a craving, I actually wanted a hug.
Oh,
And I
wow.
wanted a hug from someone who wasn't there.
Hmm.
So I would smell whisper, and whisper would remind me of this kind of masculine, fatherly love that I didn't have. And the plants, the oils, would help me give that to myself.
Wow. That is so profound. I hope everyone is taking really, really good notes because that invitation right there to sit with your emotions, to sit with discomfort. When we have those desires, um, to ask that question, what's really wanted here? What's
Mhm.
really asking to be felt? That is so, so powerful and profound. Thank you so much. Um, can I just highlight a couple of things that have stood out to me, that are really, really critical? So I love how you shared that when you were approached in your yoga practice, it wasn't the gentleman's story that touched you. It was somebody else's story. I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody has said, "How can I share the business if I haven't had business success?" And it's like, has anyone had business success? Like, that's why we do this podcast, so you can have all these stories to draw from. Like, there are stories upon stories upon stories. It doesn't matter if it's even someone connected to you. You just have to know a few stories and look at the impact that that person had on you and your life. Like the I don't know what it is in our wiring that makes us think that we have to be the ones with the success in order to create success. But it's simply not true. And I'm so grateful that that was part of your story.
Yeah, because we're the messenger.
Yeah.
We don't have to fully embody the whole message. He didn't even tell me anything about the oils. He opened a
Wow.
bottle, let me smell it,
Yeah.
told me a little bit about doTERRA, and then told me his mom's story. And that
Wow.
combination of, oh, I align with what doTERRA is doing. Wow, this oil does something to me I can't explain.
Yeah.
And then, oh, she did it. If she can do it, I can do it.
would you be willing to talk to us about, um, and maybe there's nothing here, but I just feel to ask about the spiritual journey. We have no problem talking about that on this call. Um, some people talk religion, but it's usually just like the spiritual journey of kind of where you were and where you've been.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the younger part of my life, both of my parents were also drug users. So I grew up in a household that was very chaotic,
Mm,
and there was often parties going around. Um, when I was about 8 years old, my mom had a spiritual awakening. My parents were divorced, and my
mm,
dad struggled for many years with his addiction. So at a young age, my mom started to get very into the new age kind of woo woo
mm,
life, channeling and psychic powers, and very scary for an 8-year-old child. I was like, whoa, what is going on? This is so weird. I don't know what's happening with my mom. And her journey took us to living on a spiritual compound, which
mm,
I lovingly refer to as a abusive cult. Like that's the best way I can explain it. It was not pretty there. I wasn't allowed to go to school. I wasn't allowed to have friends. Um, the belief was that we were the chosen ones, and our whole um, purpose was to ascend the planet. So God was coming back for us. And I really didn't believe that I would make it to the age 16. I was extremely devoted. I
wow.
believed with my complete heart and soul that this was my path, and my connection to God was so solid, and this is where I was headed. And as the years went on there, so we moved there when I was 11. I finally escaped when I was 21. So as the years progressed, we didn't ascend. God didn't come for us. And there was a lot of emotional and physical abuse. And so it was a slowly chipping away of this feeling that God lied to me,
Mm,
that he had abandoned me, and that it was all a farce. And so that's where I really hardened that part of my heart, because I had been so open and I had felt so lied to. And so when I left and kind of tried to find my way in the world, which is a whole nother story on its own, to when you take somebody and they're not raised in society, it was really, really hard. I had to go through deprogramming, cult deprogramming. And I felt this big hole in my heart because I'd known what it felt like to have God and to
mm,
have a connection with God and to be able to talk to God and pray to God, and then I felt what it was like, the extreme opposite,
mm,
which was there is nothing, there is no one there. And as I started to get into the essential oils and use the essential oils, it was almost like the oils were a loofah, and they began to exfoliate that shell that had been around my heart. And I started to feel connected again, is the best way I can explain it.
mm,
I remember one specific moment where I was in Hawaii, and I was sitting on a cliff looking over the ocean, and I could see sea turtles swimming through the ocean, and the sun was, beating down on me. It was just the most perfect day. And I had a moment of, oh, like it was like a God moment of like, oh, you are there.
mm,
There is this magic here. And I had been connected to a false sense of that connection I had had as a child was um, filtered by humans who were
mm,
abusive. But you've always been there. And it was this unfolding that happened over time very slowly. And I do believe that the oils were a huge part of that because the oils are created by nature. And one of my favorite quotes is, I believe in God, only I spell it Nature.
Hmm.
And to me, that what that means is like you just, if you can open your eyes and look around at everything that's given to us through the
Mhm.
earth and the sun and the moon and the stars and the plants, of course it's divinely created. How could it not be? And so I'm still on my journey. You know, I still have moments where I'm praying and I'm mad and I can't quite touch in. And then I
Mhm.
have other moments where I go, "Oh yeah, you've always been there. I've always been cared for." And my goal is to just try to keep my heart open.
Yeah. Wow. That is so beautiful. And I've found this exact same thing that the oils just have a natural opening effect on us. Natalie calls them liquid light.
Mhm,
So
they do.
they,
Sometimes people ask, you know, they have a loved one who's in addiction and they want to help and they hear my story and they go, "What should I give them? What should I do?" And you don't have to do anything, but if you can get a bottle in their hand that they like, if there's
yeah,
something that they like to smell, they like to use, you just get that in their hands and the oils are going to do the work on them.
yeah, beautiful. So I follow you a little bit on social media, and it looks like you have a beautiful oil community. Talk to us about how doTERRA has changed your social life, and your connection to others.
Yes, we do have a wonderful essential oil community all over the world. There are people in Australia and Oregon and Hawaii, and it's just so cool to realize that I could probably go anywhere in the world and there would be someone who I'm connected to through doTERRA. And of course, when I first started doTERRA, I was a loner. I had trouble with relationships. And
Mhm.
that's one of the beautiful things that happened is people started to say, "Oh, I want to do this with you." And they began to bring their gifts and their skills. And I really hooked onto some mentor along the way. It was probably you or Natalie or Lil Shepherd said, you know, you have to have a class every week. And so I went, okay, I'll have a class every week. And at first that was 4 or 5 people in my living room.
Mhm.
And then it grew and it grew and it grew. And pretty soon we had to start renting hotel rooms. And then people all over the world started having those classes. And it was a beautiful thing to see. And then we'd all meet at convention every year. And there'd be a huge group of us to the point, you know, that we couldn't go to a restaurant and have a dinner. We'd have to rent a meeting room at a hotel. And we have, you know, after the pandemic, a lot of things changed with that. But what we've always done is just like you, is meet on Zoom every week. And so every week we come on Zoom and we have our podcast. It's called the Essential Wellness Podcast. It's on YouTube and all the podcast channels if you want to go check it out. And one of the unique aspects about our team is we tend to attract naturopathic physicians and acupuncturists and individuals that are in the healing fields and the fields of medicine.
Mhm.
And so we have a wealth of knowledge that's so I feel so grateful to have them around. You know, because at first you're kind of building this thing and it's just you.
Mhm.
And I personally didn't have a lot of skills in science and medicine and essential oils. So I would talk about the
Mhm.
things that I like to talk about. But as soon as they came around, I was able to go, "Oh, you know, Dr. Josie, she's one of our team members. What do you think about this?" And she would tell us about the science and bring all of that information to us. And it's beautiful to grow and be together. And we have become best friends. My kids call them all their doTERRA aunties, you know, and we love each other and we support each other. And we've gone through ups and downs, illnesses, marriages, divorces, all the things that happen in life. And yes, we're business partners, but we're family above all of that.
Wow. Oh, what a gift. What a huge, huge gift. The all the levels of freedom, even social, right? To to have access to a global family that you can call home. Can I highlight one more thing that I heard that I think is so, so, so crucial? You were living a couple states away, and someone paid for your plane ticket to come to convention. So I just want to highlight how critical that was because you talked on and on and on about Dr. Hill doing the oils A to Z and how impactful that was for you. We had the similar effect when we realized that we believe in this product. We spent so much money to get so many people to convention, and I can't even count how many of those people became diamonds because of that exact experience, right? They came open to the product, maybe believe in the product, but after convention, they were all in on the business. And so we personally used our home equity line of credit to pay for that, which I don't recommend to anyone. Don't go into debt if you don't feel that's the right thing. But for us, it was the best financial investment we ever made to get as many people to convention as possible. So I just want to highlight how visionary that was of someone to get you to convention because that has made a world of difference for us.
Yeah, it was a very wise choice on his part to go ahead and get me there. And I I do recommend that you do whatever you can do to get at least one person to convention
Yeah.
with you each year. And it doesn't always have to be that you buy their plane ticket and their
No.
hotel. You could rent an Airbnb and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, come sleep on the couch."
Yeah.
Uh, there's lots of ways to
Mhm.
help people, and they really do catch the vision in
Yeah,
such a bigger way.
for sure.
Um, Especially if they've ever been to another MLM convention. We're so different that
Yeah.
you step in that room and you go, "Oh, wait, this is a greater cause. This has
Mhm.
soul to it. I'm here for many other reasons besides the income potential." And I think that's what has kept me so passionate all these years
Yeah.
is it's not about the money. It's not even about the oils themselves. It's about the light that doTERRA is and
Mhm.
how we can pull people together and create
Mhm.
community and how we can cross that divide that's happening in our
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of like you got to go all in. You got to get all your
Um,
feet in the boat and be willing to take off on this
yeah,
incredible journey to really feel it.
for sure. Yeah, there's definitely a loneliness pandemic going on right now, and social media is only making it worse. Technology, AI is only making it worse. Um, so I feel like we're all on a rescue mission. Like we get to go out and literally throw out lifeboats to people because yeah, the divide is getting greater, not smaller. So yeah, there's a huge, huge need. Okay, there's one more thing that I wanted to highlight that I think I heard you say. Um, you said that when doTERRA was presented to you, you had been around oils. It wasn't the oils that first interested you. It was the business. And you didn't have massive goals. You had really small goals. Like I think you said 1,200 a month was your first goal. So um, can you talk to us more about that? Like I think people think they need to go out and find the next presidential diamond or diamond to be their next builder. But talk to us about the power of baby builders.
Yeah, I mean, most people do not have an extra $500 in their bank account if they need new tires or something happens. So it's recognizing what, and it's not just $500. It's what if you had $500 a month every month for the next 18 years? what could you do with that? And in my mind, I get really excited about this stuff. I love investing. I love the idea of compound interest. And I go, well, what if I had $500 a month and I just put it into index funds and like forgot about it? You know, the kind
Mhm.
of wealth that you would build over
Mhm.
40, 50 years. So it's really kind of taking those big grand, so many people think, oh, I want to have tons of money so I can be financially free. And I'm here to tell
Mhm.
you that it doesn't matter how many zeros you have in your bank account, you're still going to be you.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that means you're still going to be sad when you're sad, and you're still going to have the struggles that you have. So it isn't about having more zeros. It's about creating something that is consistent, that you can depend upon, and using it in a way where you're building stability for yourself and for future generations. So I much prefer the baby builders, and I like
Mhm.
to paint the picture of, well, what if you could go to the grocery store and not worry about the price tag? Or what if your rent was always paid? Or what if your
Mhm.
mortgage was always paid? What if you could take that money and, yes, put it into a stock account that you gift to your grandchildren one day? Whatever it is that inspires you,
Mhm.
go and run with that, because doTERRA has a plan. And if you follow the plan, the power of three bonus, and you build your pods, you can create a couple $1,000s a month for a very long period of time. Because we have a product that people love, they keep on buying. I mean, I'm blown away when I look at my back office and I have people who have been purchasing every
Mhm.
month more than $100 a month
Mhm.
for 18 years,
Yeah.
myself included.
Yeah.
I would still buy my order every month if there was no commission check coming,
Mhm.
because the products are that good. So when you have a product that is that good,
Mhm.
and you have a system, a plan, a pathway to create that residual income,
Mhm.
you have to run for it. There is no choice there, because anyone who has been in a situation where something happens and there's not enough money at the end of the month, and you need to take care of your family, you know what it feels like when you have $0 and zero credit. And if you've ever had the experience where you go, well, I've got that little nest egg, I've got that little savings account, or, oh, I have that little check from doTERRA that keeps coming. And, kind of on this same subject, I would say, don't try to quit your job. Like, you don't have to do
Right.
doTERRA as your full-time thing. If you have a job that you enjoy and it's bringing that income into your life, keep doing that and build this little doTERRA thing on the side. You're going to have more people to talk to, kind of like the great Jim Rohn used to say in his stories. Like, he would
Mhm.
have this little story about this little side thing that he was doing, and he could talk to everybody about it. And then one day he decided, oh, my little side thing is my main thing. He didn't
Mhm.
have that great story anymore. So it's just a reminder that your goal doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to make it look like anybody else. Just see what happens if you set out to make an extra $500 a month. And the way our plan is built, if you do that, you're going to accidentally end up diamond. And this is actually what happened to me, Andy. It's a really funny story. I didn't understand anything about the comp plan except for the power of three. And so I was building my power of three. And I got a contact from doTERRA, and they said, oh, you qualified for leadership retreat. And I was like, oh, what's that? So, I got a plane ticket to Utah, and I went to Utah. I think it was at Sundance. And we're about to walk into the first session, and Emily Wright came running up to me. It was the 4th of March. So it was the
Mhm.
beginning of the month. And she ran up to me and she goes, Arin, you just hit platinum on the 4th of the month. And I went, what's platinum?
Oh my gosh.
And I say that
Wow.
story because I didn't understand the ranks. I didn't have an upline. Like, my upline, he was really smart in how he invested in me, but he didn't really go on with much
Yeah.
of the business. So I wasn't calling anybody. I think Lil Shepherd was like 7 levels up there. I
Wow.
didn't know. I just knew the power of 3 bonus, and our comp plan is so brilliantly designed that if you follow that easy path, you could wake up one day and go, "Oh, I'm accidentally silver. I'm accidentally platinum." And that's a
Wow.
bonus. You know, those sometimes we get like really starry-eyed about the ranks. The
Hmm.
ranks are cool. The leadership
Hmm.
bonus is
Hmm.
cool. But what's the coolest is that little line on my check that says unilevel, because unilevel is true residual. That's the income that I will hopefully be able to pass on to my kids. Not the bonuses. The bonuses are going to come and go. So, power of 3 is that structure that is there to help guide you. It's like the training wheels. So, lean into it and don't stress about the rest. Just go help people make an extra $500 a month, and then that's what's going to grow your business.
Wow. So, so good. Thank you so, so much. If anybody has questions, would you raise your hand and we can bring you on live to ask Arin any questions you've got? While we're waiting for people to raise their hand, um, you said that somebody mentored you to do a class a week. And so you started and you've been doing it ever since. I assume that most of those are in person. I mean, you mentioned that you do a team call on Zoom, but I assume that you've built mostly belly to belly with in-person classes. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now,
Awesome.
it's about teaching people to do the same.
Yeah.
But it's always been belly to belly. So I do a lot of networking in my
Mhm.
town. I go to networking events and networking groups. I build my social capital. So my
Mhm.
goal is that everyone possible in my community knows who I am, and when they think of me, they think Arin is a good and kind person, and she's always helping me get what I want.
Wow.
My goal isn't that they think of, oh, that's Arin. She does doTERRA.
Yeah.
She's annoying because she's always trying to get me in her business. I don't want that. And so, what I have created is a reputation in my town where people say, oh, Arin, she's amazing. She does doTERRA and she does it in a way that nobody else does.
Wow.
And that happens through being someone who says, how can I help you get what you want? So maybe I'm sitting with tea with someone and I'm learning about who they are and what they love and what their business is, and they're wanting to connect with someone who does social media marketing.
Hmm.
So I make it my goal to connect them with the person that I know that does the best social media marketing. And then what naturally happens is they maybe follow me on social media, or they see that I'm having a class and they feel a warmth or a connection to me. So maybe they wouldn't have been willing to check out essential oils, or maybe they wouldn't have even noticed. But because of that warmth connection I've created, they go, oh, yeah, I'll go check out what she's doing. So that's always been my kind of philosophy and my system. It works really, really well, in my opinion. And I'm amazed every month, every year that people are kind of coming out of the woodworks and they're either saying, oh, doTERRA, I've always wanted to get involved in that. Or they might say, oh, doTERRA, I have a bunch of those oils. I don't know how to use them. They might say, oh my gosh, I love essential oils. I've never met anyone like you that does it the way you do it. I would never have done it, but I'm going to because of you and your personality.
Wow. I love that idea of being so intentional about your personal brand. Um, and your brand didn't have anything to do with doTERRA. It was about being the helpful guy, person, the one who's helping others get what they want. That's such a powerful concept, and hope everyone ta is taking really, really good notes. That's so good. All right. Who else has questions for Arin? I was just looking through the chat. Could you just restate the name of your the podcast that you do?
Yes, it's called the Essential Wellness Podcast.
The Essential Wellness Podcast. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Um, So if you were to give one piece of advice to someone who's maybe they're looking at doTERRA as a business, um, maybe they've been in the business or and their team has fallen apart, or um, they've had to focus on other things. What's the advice that you would give to someone like that?
I think if you are feeling like your team's falling apart or you've gotten distracted and you want to come back, that you have to start with your belief. And it can be the oils, it could be the business, it could be personal development, it could be healing the world, whatever it is that got you sparked in the first place. If you've lost your way, it means that you've lost your spark.
Hmm.
It's happened to me before. I'm sure it'll happen again. And whenever that happens, I kind of have to look at myself and go, well, first of all, are you using the products? Have you fallen off your routines? When was the last time you put balance on the bottom of your feet or some frankincense in the back of your neck? So I start there. And then I remind myself, or I ask myself, why am I doing this anyways? And it changes over the years. When I first started, I was doing it so that I could get out of the situation I was in. And now I'm doing it because I 100% believe that people do not know the true power of essential oils. And the research is expanding every day that I would even dare say that you and I don't know the true power of essential oils. And so for me, that's what gets me out and going and learning and growing is I have to tell people what I've learned and I want to be a part of what we're going to learn in the future.
Hmm.
Now it could be different for you, but you just have to go back to that. Are you using the product and why did you get involved anyway? And why do you want to stay involved? And once you kind of turn both of those things on, it's like starting a car. You won't be able to stop yourself until you need you need another refill and another reset.
Beautiful. Yeah, that belief is where it all starts, right? If you could boil down um, the only metric that matters in your doTERRA business is belief.
Yeah. I often ask myself, when I'm having these hard times, well, how would you feel if the essential oils weren't available anymore?
Yeah.
And that's a very sobering thought. And that usually brings me right back into alignment of, oh, that's right. We got
Mhm.
to do this.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right, we've got a question from Paula. She says, you started you're on day one with 100% belief, or was it more hope that became belief?
I had 100% belief that the market was going to respond well to essential oils.
Hmm.
I tend to have a marketing brain and maybe a natural inclination towards sales and kind of understanding human behavior. But it was the doTERRA piece when I heard doTERRA's philosophy around bringing the oils to the world because I had been exposed to a more interesting, not as solid in science presentation of oils. And I heard that doTERRA wanted to blend modern medicine with alternative medicine and really prove scientifically what the oils could do. It was just like a ding kind of went off in my brain where I went, the market is going to respond very well to this. So my belief was 100% in that. I didn't have a lack of belief in the oils. I just didn't understand how they really worked. I thought they smelled nice.
Yeah.
Their perfume. When I came into
Right.
doTERRA, essential oils were perfume.
Love that. So, so good. Um, does anybody else have any questions? Um, just feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand. We can bring you on live. Um, I do want to highlight one more part. Um, when you said that it was after yoga and shavasana that that you had this epiphany, this turning point moment, I about lost it because um, that's where God met Natalie, and told her very specific people. She was in Shavasana after yoga, and she started getting downloads about specific people that she needed to share the oils with. And she actually argued back, and she was like, but if I were to do those things, I'd be doing network marketing, and I don't do network marketing. And God was like, well, I wanted this for you, but if you don't want it, I'll give it to someone else. And that got her attention. The old takeaway sales approach, right? And and so she was like, well, if you can work with my limiting beliefs around network marketing, then I'm your girl. I'm here for it. So I just think it's so powerful how God can meet us on the mat.
Yeah, I agree. And we don't have to steer the boat.
Yeah.
All we have to say is that we're willing to get inside and go for the ride.
Yep. We show up for it and he drives it. Okay, we have a question here from Cindy. If essential oils seemed like a perfume to you at first, what do you go back to as your initial belief? Some of my team struggled to find their why in clear terms.
Sure. Well, I broke it down into small chunks. So my very first 3 months in doTERRA, my why was to pay for my $100 rewards order. I wouldn't allow myself to see beyond that. And I actually made a deal with myself that if I did not accomplish that goal, I would quit.
Hmm.
That worked for me and my personality because I don't like to quit. And I'm also very financially savvy. And so it was a non-negotiable. So for me, and this isn't for everybody, I didn't let myself use my first rewards products. I ordered intro kits. That's the lemon, lavender, peppermint. And I sold them retail.
Hmm.
And then I used my points as my personal product. So I was very measured with myself and I really treated it like a business. And what that did for me is I went out, and this is where I partnered with God. I would go out with my little bag and my intro kits, and I would go to the farmer's market. I would go to my yoga class. I would go to maybe a potluck I had been invited to. And when I got into conversations with people, I didn't try to maneuver it in any one way. I just trusted that I would be guided and it would come up in conversation. Oh, you smell good, or what do you do? And I would talk about essential oils. And then I would say, I actually have a little intro kit. It's only $25.
Hmm.
It would be a great way for you to try. Do you want it?
Hmm.
And people would buy those kits from my bag. And then when I sold, 4 of them, I went, woohoo, I can do my rewards order. And I worked that way. So after 3 months, my check was over $100. Now I allowed myself to really use my product, but I kept that idea of having those intro kits in my back pocket all the time so that I could easily give people an experience and help myself kind of jumpstart. Then after those first couple of months, my why became being able to pay my rent with my doTERRA check. And that took another maybe 6 months. And then when I reached that goal, there was a huge celebration. My check can now pay my doTERRA rent. I mean, my opposite, my doTERRA check can now pay my rent. What's my next goal? And it just built from there on until I reached Blue Diamond. And then as a Blue Diamond, it was like, oh, well, now my goal is to help other people do it. And so I would just encourage your team member, like, they don't have to want to save the children of the world or have this big, huge, grandiose thing. Start small. Like, another little thing that I had was I want to go to the grocery store and not look at the price tag. I want to buy all organic food. I want to pay for my supplements and seeing naturopathic and holistic doctors. And so it's just little things that you can grab onto that really get you super, super excited and make you want to do the hard work and make them small enough, bite size enough so that you do get to celebrate them. You know, good 90-day goals are great. What can I accomplish in 90 days? Make it really attainable and then celebrate it for real. And then you kind of start all over again. You go, okay, what's my next 90-day goal? I hope that
Yeah.
answered your question there, Paul.
Yes. So, so good. Any parting wisdom for us? Well, any last nuggets for us? You've already fed us so, so well. But any last words?
This is a reminder if anybody is feeling like nobody wants essential oils anymore,
Mm.
or nobody, everybody knows about doTERRA. What I want to remind you is there are people out there, I meet them all the time, where they either have dusty essential oils in the back of their cabinet that they haven't used in ages, and they're just waiting for someone like you to explain it the way that you would explain it for them to finally catch the spark. There are
Wow.
people out there that don't know what essential oils are. Like they literally don't know. Can you even imagine? We forget because we're so ingrained. There are people out there that don't realize that essential oils are medicine.
Mm.
They've never been taught in a way that they could understand it because they've been waiting for you. So if you have it on your heart, if you're on this call, if you're listening to this podcast, there's something in you that wants to be a part of this. And it's an encouragement that you haven't met your people yet and they haven't met you. And the only way you're going to is if you walk out the door and you open a bottle of oil and you start talking.
Yeah. So beautiful. So, so powerful. Well, Arin, I I hope that everybody else has enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. It has touched me deeply, and I'm so, so grateful to you. So thank you for coming on and being vulnerable and sharing every part of your journey. I'm so grateful to you.
Thanks, Andy. It's been really great to speak with you and share with everybody. And can't wait to see you guys at convention.
I know, right? We'll see you there and have a great week.
Bye, everybody.